Welcome to another episode in our series of Destination History, and we welcome back today lifelong Newry resident and former North Street man, Eamon McAteer. And you're very welcome back, Eamon.
Thanks, James. I want to going to let you into a secret. I am a Newry man, but unfortunately I wasn't born in Newry. Circumstances led that when upon my arrival, Mum and Father could not get anything to live in Newry, and I was born in Dublin. But that's a secret. I'm a dying man.
Very good, very good. Well, Eamon, we're going to talk today about a few names that have disappeared from the local area, and places indeed that you're well familiar with. And I was thinking there, if we just start at the base of the Dublin Road, the junction with Dominic Street, we have people would say it's still there, younger people, Pool Lane. But of course the Pool Lane that me and you know or remember is long gone.
Indeed, and I have happy memories of Pool Lane. Delivering chickens to the famous Johnny Bournes that worked in Fisher, so there's a maritime connection there over on the bicycle. And as you remember, James, there's steep incline, no cars could get up Pool Lane. You had your O'Hare family, big family, small house, something that was repeated right through the town. But talking about places that disappeared, you mentioned me yesterday evening I would have something, and you were talking about the North Street. But no, I want to spread a bit more over. I started to think of, I grew up in what I would call a living town. Now, by a living town, I mean every street someone lived in. Now, coming over here, I parked the car in Dunn's car park. Now, that was the Creamery, and beside the Creamery was McGovern's. And just when I mentioned McGovern's, there was an old friend of mine, a former workmate in B&Q, who died last night, Noel Connell, and Noel Connell started his working life in McGovern's, and in our time in B&Q he told me many stories of experiences. McGovern's, like Fairley Larkins over in Dominic Street, sold meal at a bar, general grocery shop and everything. There's also a street there between, it wasn't really a street, but at the moment I can't remember the name of it, but between, also going to live in
Ellis's Row.
No, that wasn't. I don't think it was Ellis's Row. It just can't come to mind. But having said that, the manager of the Creamery lived in the house. There was a house there for the manager, Monaghan Street. Opposite that you had Lavery's shop, and Lavery's also lived in Monaghan Street. I think the Bailey family lived in Monaghan Street. I remember Frank Hard's aunt, Miss Golden, who we used to visit regular, and she was a great storyteller. She lived in McNamee's Drapers. They lived over the shop or behind the shop. And it started me thinking that there's nowhere except I think there's two residents in Monaghan Street now. This top end was odd. McInnes lived over the bakery. Shawnee Gorman lived over the barber shop. You had Beardy's vegetable shop, and you had John McParney and family next door where I think a motor, a surgery place now. All those. And even the plane on the street, there's no plane on the street now. So we're back over to, I'd say, my favourite area, North Street. Market Street's gone. Market Square, as you know, you and I were out in Ballyhone doing a presentation, and we told the story, and not tell the story here, but I mentioned Market Square, and nobody knew where it was. It actually was where the gates into the convent school is now. And that's another thing, where you're at the convent, the nuns aren't living in High Street Convent now, they're out in Arsh Grove.
They're out in Arsh Grove.
The Christian Brothers are gone out of Castle Street. There's only one house there's three houses in Castle Street. McAteer, a long time resident, and unfortunately her sister-in-law Mary died about a month ago. And just on that point, behind Stephen Fitzpatrick's, McAteer's kept cattle. The cattle were taken down from the fields in Ballyholden in the winter and were put in the back of the shop. And there was a sweet shop there. It's gone. The other side of the road, you had the Nolans, the dancers. You had McDonald's. Incidentally, Mary McDonald, Jimmy McDonald's sister died just last week. You had McCavitt's pub, and you had the famous McCann's bakery. It's gone. You had the row of three houses beside St. Coleman's Hall. There you had the Bonnans, the Gormans, and the Popcorn. They lived further up opposite the Sacred Heart gate. The Sacred Heart's gone. It's out in Ash Grove now.
Well, now, Eamon, just you've given us a plethora of information there. To get back to McAteer's, they actually had a dairy.
They had a dairy. I've seen a bottle recently. I remember Jerry delivering milk in my memory, and happy memories coming in to Uncle Sean in our street to be paid for the week's milk. And just on that now, I'm not going political, but I was thinking this morning of Wolf Tone's words of uniting Catholic, Protestant, dissenter. Now, truthfully, in 29 North Street, Catholic, Protestant and dissenter were united, and also Jews, because we had customers of all persuasions, and they were quite welcoming. There was no fallouts. My grandfather said there was a stile about the length of that there, and my grandfather besides that, and he had the various visitors, R.C. Spence, Harry Butterfield, who had been the manager of McCann's bakery, and that's kind of where I got half my information. In those days, children were tolerated if they'd be quiet, and that's another thing going back. How you know about the streets empty, and you remember what do you call them in Dominic Street with the ice cream.
Harry Galloway.
Like, we would go, as we weren't the only ones, Sunday walk, and you'd be asked, what way do you want to go? Now there's a choice, because you tried to pick a route where there was a shop or something like that. There was ice cream one week maybe in the Florentine, the following week in Harry Galloway's. And probably met you because there's an affinity with you and Army are born the same day, and we're probably going back, everybody was out walking, and then of course your mother was in Chapel Street, and we had the Chapel Street connection. Like those days are gone. You don't see families out now. It's Sunday shopping now, but there was walks, various.
Yeah, but just not breaking a conversation, but just to let the viewers know, and for to remind some of people who may have forgotten. Tell us about Father Murphy's walks. Father Murphy in the Dominican.
Well, I wasn't really a Dominican Catholic. I only heard about them, but I believe they were great.
Yeah.
The altar boys.
Well, Father Murphy had a model aircraft. He was a great man for all sorts of gadgets. Like, he introduced the ducks.
His crib was wonderful. And that was an all-walk around Christmas.
And that was all the animals that...
He had everything. The Northern Head, the fox.
Yeah.
The camels away in the distance. And I think he got
ahead of his time for it.
I think he got his idea from the Dominicans had what they called, though I never got to see it in Parnell Square in Dublin, what they called the moving crib. And I think he got his ideas. But Father Murphy was a wonderful man. He was a long time in Europe. And then you're bringing back the memories, Father Haggerty, different. That it is, you know, of course, about the Pierce altar in the Dominican.
Yeah, the side altar.
Yeah. A lot of people in Europe don't know. But I think Pierce may have been in Europe. My grandfather talked about a master meeting in 1918 in Sinn Féin on Steve Gordon, and I'm not sure where my grandfather was at it, although he was a Republican in his outlook, but I'm not sure whether he ever joined any organisations. But I remember a man called Ned Murphy who lived up beside the Blue Motion, and I don't know whether you remember, I've seen him come from Sir James or not, He's only a bit older than you, but he used to have the donkey up Courtney Hill with, I don't know, maybe 25 or 30 gallons of power from, because up there we had no electricity. And just touching on that, if you don't mind me saying, the tragedy in Annalong last week brought memories, because my younger days, an awful lot of people were drowned in quarries.
I remember a wee schoolmate from the primary school, PJ McAteer.
Yes, PJ was from O'Neill Avenue.
And PJ was drowned.
But I can go a wee bit further back on a date. Clearly, you were about 2 years old when it happened, because I remember our Mary was in the go-kart. It happened on the Monday night before the horse show, Tom Farn. Now, Tom Farn was in my class in school. We were 11 years old, and I distinctly remember Mr. Hannaway, whose class we had been in the primary, warned us to be careful on the previous Friday when we got a holidays. He didn't think we had been standing on Main Avenue on that Tuesday at a funeral, and I have a fear of water. I never learned to swim, because I can still see Tom Farn's body being carried past our house and the water dripping out of it. It was then, cutties were hard then, the trainers now. And I never forgot that, and I have a fear of water from that, although I shouldn't have, because my mother was from Bray. I went to Bray. Yes, I was bathing my feet in my knee before, but I never learned to swim.
And was Tom drowned in the quarry as well?
He was drowned in the quarry behind St Mary's School. And Sean O'Hanlon, who's still alive, Sean O'Hanlon made a bid to try and save him, but that quarry was very, very deep. I remember that evening, people came from all over the town, I don't know what for, but it was like a football match on O'Neill Avenue. And I see also that Alec Atwood is at that council should drain quarries. They did about a month after Tom Farn was drowned. The fire brigade did come up, and they did drain somewhere over it, not enough. I wouldn't go up there. I don't know whether there's still water in it or not. I remember a lad, McLaughlin, being drowned up in the Blue Ocean. I can't put a date on that, but I always had a fear. I never would go near the quarries.
And then Paddy McCann talked about
Well, Paddy was talking
the lad
about
Casey that got drowned in the basin.
Yeah.
Or swimming.
I would say it's a big change in the way with the swimming pool. They're complaining about how they stay, but at least there's nobody going, not the main knowledge going swimming in quarries now, or the county river. That was another place. But the quarries are mainly where people were drowned.
Very, very dangerous. Very, very. And last weekend, as you say, very, very sad tragedy. 2 lives lost. You know.
And the gang now for day same has happened.
Just when we were talking there, Eamon, about the basin, I was just thinking about Jack Hutchinson living in the Lockmaster's cottage.
Yes, and now he was past it many a time, because Uncle Sean used to take the field along, well, it wasn't in the field, the bank of the river for grazing, and over the railway line. I remember the railway line was there then, the station was going well. This was in Dublin Bridge. It was, I can't think. The name will come back to me, but I was happy memories of that. I told her when I go on the talks to do to the school, that I talk about Henry Whitty and Robert Dixon driving the cattle.
Yeah.
I had many a time drove cattle, not to the quantity that they did, but it used to be great when land would be taken. Land was taken down at the Fodden Lane, and it was great to drive the cattle and run the edge to make sure they went down straight, and a nice plant. I thought that was great, and I know you haven't done beast, it never happened, but when I grew up I wanted to drive the cattle out, but it never happened.
Well, when you talked about, again, to get back to the shop, and many people will remember your grandfather's shop, although my memory is of your Uncle Sean in it before he went to Mary Street. But how far ranging was the business hinterland of that shop?
Well, pre-partition, I took in the Cooley Peninsula. My grandfather.
Pre-partition?
Yeah. Pre-partition, there was maybe it was led to believe, maybe 10, 15, when men, lads, working in North Street, they were sending, would you believe in pigeons, but Dominic Fitzpatrick, Eamon Fitzpatrick's father, used to go on the Cooley run, and he would buy in Cooley, and then he would also go out to Benwick and out round there. Now, he was involved in the national movement, and he was on hunger strike in Crumlin Road in 1917, and when he was in jail, other poultry dealers went out around Benwick. You know, where the type, I don't like taking sectarians in, but there were mainly Protestants, Presbyterians out there to buy a file, and but Fitzpatrick was in jail, he'll not be out. But those people managed to take they had horse and cars themselves, they took the file into North Street. Now in North Street, if you imagine now, you can see where the car park is, the back's in North Street, run back to St. Clair's Avenue. Now all in North Street there's various animals kept, pigs, cattle, chickens, ducks. On our side of the street you had James Conley, he was a councillor. He worked in Crilly's butcher shop, but he kept pigs next to where Gallagher's or Taylor's originally were facing Tom McAteer's. And even Gallagher's had cattle that went in through the side into the yard.
Now, just to give people a perspective, Eamon, of where we're talking about relative to today, roughly where
the car park, the present car park in North Street, where the flats were knocked down, that area, all that was, you have still the outline of the old North Street with the path. Now, just on an instant thing about the path, we were in Kinkeil at the North Centre, and I flicked through a book, and I've seen a word in print for the first time that was regularly used in Europe, but not used now, the cribbing.
That's right, yeah.
But there's no way I use the perfect King's English now. The cribbing was the cabbage, you know.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I seen it actually in print, and it was in the book. It was the cribbing and the sats. So the cribbing was the word that the stonecutters used to describe that what is now the curb.
The granite set, yeah. And at that time, Eamon, when your grandfather was there, when you came to be about the shop, you would have been dispatched by your grandfather to collect fowl, etc.
With a jute bag, we up the St. Clair's Avenue, St. Patrick's Avenue, and go in and catch 3 or 4 hens. What would happen was they would buy them as pullets, pre-laying, and they would dry them, and when they were finished laying, get rid of them and repeat the process.
Now, would your grandfather have supplied the pullets, or would they buy them?
Most time, they would come through the shop, as did Dennis Carville that owned McGee's hardware shop. He used to do the same, and I don't know, you remember Newell's?
Yeah.
And Mr. Newell, I left pullets and collected hens from Newell. Newell's was a unique to Newry in a sense. They had a branch in Royal Avenue in Belfast, and they also had a branch in Grafton Street in Dublin, which is, to the best of my knowledge, at least it was. I haven't been in Grafton Street for a few years, but the Pleasant Down stores beside what was HMV, which was railroads before was was Newell's, and you could still see the outline of Newell. They were doing, and then just to get back on that track, Forsters. I am talking about people living in the town. I remember in my time, because we were living around Water Street, and Hill Street, you through the bus stop out on the Hill Street, or down past the Downshire Court, through the cathedral. Some of the staff and Forsters were living over Forster's store. That was pre-Forster's coffee lines. Now, I was somewhere over there, and I heard somebody talking about that was the in place after school, if you had money, was Forster's coffee lounge.
Yeah.
I can't remember where
My wife worked there, and Jeannie worked there when she left school, and the manageress was a lady from Bestwood called Gertie Black.
Yeah. Well, everybody was welcome, and there was, as I said earlier, everybody mixed. There was no sectarianism. Girls from the high school, which wasn't out the road then, it was on what I would call the Belfast Road, where the education office now. We all mixed, we all met there, and we all had fun. On the Florentine. And girls were known, if they had handbags, to go to Satellite, buy a Coke off Tommy, put it in the bag, and try and slip into the Florentine and put the bottle on the counter. On the in the east. The Florentine was great with the snugs. Yeah,
that's right. And it was, as you say, it was the in place for the crack. So if you had the entrance fee, the bottle of Coke or whatever, but you have to mention the name and Tommy Burns, and Tommy was a real entrepreneur, wasn't he?
Tommy was. I remember Tommy with the bike. Push bike with a fridge or a freezer in front, and his favourite spot was the tennis court. That was another place for a walk on a Sunday. Now, just when we mentioned the tennis court, we didn't have, I know knowledge where tennis was, but we went down and watched, and there was a, what do you call it, with the mallet? Croquet pitch, and we played that.
I heard Prince Charles talking about it.
You could have played it was then known as the Newry Catholic Tennis Court.
That's right.
And you could go in and play croquet. There was a wooden building, there's no trace of it now. And then when
it was green like a
green on the right. Yeah, the green pavilion. And then on your right you had the croquet pitch.
Yeah.
And there would be tournaments, and it was like in many Wimbledon with the raised platform for the umpire. But then on our way home down East Avenue, slip into the graveyard and along the wall to find the balls. But the tennis balls are never given back. They were used maybe to play holding the handball. That's another thing there. I seem to remember people playing handball against High Rock Wall. There's no, it's all right now with these electric games and that, but I don't think children have any life now compared to we have.
No.
I go out cycling, I go cycling. That's the thing on the Point Road. There was a race every year. It's still going on, but it's not publicised now because you only see the results. Was the Tour of Mons. And do you remember the bridge over the railway with the long walk drive down the Park Ascot?
Yeah.
That bank would be packed on the Sunday of the Tour of Mons, and the race probably start around 1:30, maybe finish 4:30, 4:30, and we would sit down there from the start to the end. There'd be a big crack on that, and there'd be cyclists coming. But famous, just tell you will remember Joe Conway. Remember Joe in Drummer Lane?
I remember Joe well.
Joe was the caretaker in the convent, but Joe did a bit of cycling. And somebody gave Joe a bit of advice to save his wind for Hill Street, making a pass coming down Hill Street. Patrick Allen out of Mercy, and he said he was on the other side, the Monaghan Bears. There's somebody you want to interview, Brian Monaghan. Brian Monaghan raced on the continent. On Dermot. Dermot's back in Newry. He'd been out in Newry for many, many years, and suddenly one day when I was in B&Q, who he was in front of me only time in Monaghan. Ross Talton, you remember Ross Talton, the first Ross Talton, a stage finish outside Conan's house on the Belfast Road, Ainshaw Road is, and it had a big following. You'd be surprised there would be hundreds. There's all races finished out at the Ash Trees, and you walk out the Ash Trees and home. It was a good step out from when they having the Ash Trees.
And there's nobody walking there at all.
There's nobody walking there. We had various walks. We had the Bluebell Woods out the Commons. You had over the Mayor Hill. You had then you'd cross the other side, the town, and up Watson's Road or the Chancellor's Road, up the Clog and back. And I remember my mother pushing me in the pram, or one of us would take a turn. I remember when we went back to school in September for the first week or so, we would all head to North Street, and would be a walk out to Belfast Road or something before we went home.
Well, I was just driving up the bypass the other evening, Eamon, and I was just thinking back to the time when that was all more or less Indian country, up the Barnish, Altnavay, and now that road just sways through the middle of it. It's the boundary for the town, really.
I would be afraid to go. I was on the Barnish recently in the car, but I suppose I went about the Michael's Garden from school, and we walked. He went into the shop early from school. He was taken out of school to go into the shop, and Wednesday was the half day, you remember, and then became the whole day off. But over Barnish or Craigmore, we walked. Craigmore, if we went Canal Street, you got into Timley's on the way up. If you went Monaghan Street, you called Timley's on the way back. James, you're bringing back memories. I could go on and on about the milk, not milk, what do you call it, the Sundays in Timley's. And Timley's is still going. It's one of the few places that is still going. But then, before my time, places had an ice cream shop in Milk Street, Milk Street's gone. I said earlier, and I'm going to throw one at you. I said the other day, learned by accident, talking to Mom, Paddy O'Hanlon, and he came up with the Princess Towers.
Yeah, that would be some question for a competition, Eamon. I had never even heard of that place.
We'll let them know I will keep them guessing their future date.
I think it would be cruel to keep people hanging on that length of time. Tell them where it was. Explain where it was, Eamon.
It was, if anyone remember where the steam laundry was, which also was became Alfie Matthews, if they remember Alfie Matthews.
Alfie and Nora lived opposite John McAteer's shop.
Well, Princess Towers was originally behind those houses. There were 6 houses. One little part of where Mickey Matthews lived at the foot of Dorns Hill, the old Dorns Hill. In that area was Princess Towers. But then, should have really known, because you had Queen Street and you had King Street.
Yeah.
Now, I earlier said to you, I asked you a question, where King Street North was.
And I thought
it was not an area.
Up above Galvigan's and the railway gates in King Street.
Yeah.
But it wasn't there.
No, it was in the other end of the town, up off Karen Street, as if you were going into the Greenfield Park. The lower part to the left was a row for maybe a dozen single-story houses with the usual outdoor toilet and probably dry toilets.
Just when we mentioned Alfie Matthews, Alfie was quite a character. He had a wee farm.
He had a wee farm. A great man for these. I remember him coming up the Quinn Bennett on the Barley Lane when we lived in the Neil Avenue, if the bees weren't swarm. And I was amazed that this man would cover nets and hats and all, and he was great with the bees. That's the thing now, unfortunately, there's a disease in the bees.
You see that,
At the moment, Quinbannock kept bees, Alfie kept bees, I'm not sure who else kept bees, but remember, honey coming in new sections. The McGrath in North Street is presents. I can't recall who brought them in, but there's wonderful to see the honey in the section. On the country pub that came into, people wouldn't probably know now if you mention a country putter, which the farmer's wife made for her own few pence, churn, and he used to say, tell the story and not be the first to be seen churn and let somebody else start. Or there was a story, I can't remember if I used to tell, there was somebody in Ballyhone and they were having a problem getting the butter to settle, and they were talking to somebody and they were told they could down to the old country. Now where do you think the old country is from your?
Well, the low ground.
The low country.
The low country. Round and it's in Newry hinterland.
No, well it's a distance from Newry, but quite a assessment from Newry in a way. It's close to the little tiny county down, Refrain on the hill, below
and looking out for Dramara.
Actually, yeah, between Refrain and the dip in Refrain and Castle Island.
Yes.
And we were sent down there to see some person, I'm not sure it was man or woman, but they told them not to start churning until they seen the first smoke, but not to have the first smoke themselves. And they did, they got up early on whatever particular day for the churn, and the way that they'd seen the first smoke, which wasn't there, I started churning, and everything went well.
Oh, very good. Well, Eamon, on that note, and just thinking that the postman in Newry won't be going to King Street North or presentation.
Princess.
You
get that right sometime.
Princess Terrace, is it?
Princess Place.
And then
Normark Street, Normark Square.
Or Orchard Gardens.
Indeed. Still have Penguin Place. I wonder how it ever got the name Penguin Place.
Maybe somebody phone in and tell us or whatever. If you know how Penguin Place got its name, answers on a postcard, please, to Eamon. Eamon, thanks very much as ever. I really enjoyed that. And you awakened some old memories there.
Well, you really did yesterday evening when you said to me, asked me to come over and do this. I started to think, and as my father used to say, it's dangerous when you start to think, because you never knew what might happen.
Eamon, thanks very much. Thank you.